Okay, and 3, 2, 1. Welcome to LibernetLIVE. Libernet is a project that attempts to marry books and publishing industry and blockchain technologies, NFTs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and cryptocurrency, obviously. And it's my pleasure to have Rizzle with us today. How are you, Rizzle? How's your Thursday going?
Great, dude. It's an honor to be here, man. This is my effort to make myself seem like very well read and extremely, literate in the space. So I appreciate you having me here, dude.
Looks like we have the same sort of method. We were just talking about your sort of, we're talking about how the NFT scene is just sort of blowing up right now. And you've had a lot of attention, a lot of people sort of communicating, because I assume, given your sort of reputation, that you've sort of been here since for a while at least. You've been in this scene much before it was sort of the sort of the viral thing it was today.
Yeah, man. Been in the NFT scene for quite a while when it seemed like it was just me and like a handful of other people hanging out and sending these things back and forth when, transaction fees were pennies and, no one was paying more than like $10 for an NFT because everyone was like, is this shit going to disappear tomorrow? Or, and so it was, back then it was more about just like supporting other creators, like, trying to give a nod to other people who are doing stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, as we all know, like, NFTs are everywhere. This is cool, man. Your project is really interesting to me, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here, because, as I'm sure you have noticed, there's so much like latent space in the NFT opportunity scene, or like whatever you want to call it, that,
Absolutely.
When we're talking about publishing books or like, audio NFTs, I feel like are on the rise. And I'm sure that like plays a role in publishing when we're talking about like audio books and stuff like that. So I feel like so many like applications of NFTs were like really, really just scratching the surface of. And even the ones like on the biggest forefront right now, like art, we're still just like tapping into what can be done with art, like with NFTs. So yeah, man, it's cool to be on the bleeding edge here with you.
Fantastic to have you. So I wanted to sort of want to firstly agree with you that we are in the prenatal stages. We are barely out the hatch, out the proverbial womb in terms of this sort of thing. I just want to sort of explain what NFTs are to people that may not know, because So for example, NFT stands for non-fungible token. Now it's the complete opposite to Bitcoin. For example, Bitcoin is a fungible token. I give you 1 Bitcoin, you give me 1 Bitcoin. It is fungible. They are both pretty much the same thing. Non-fungible tokens are the complete opposite in that respect, in the fact that they are scarce, they are original. There is a limited supply of them. And to own, for example, a piece of art, be it digital and perhaps even in the physical, should we see that space evolve into that in the future, which I'm very sure is a possibility. It is just you that owns it. And it is documented on the blockchain that you happen to own this thing, be it digital or physical in the future. And the scarcity and the social currency of what it means to own this is what makes it valuable. For example, with our project, we're going to be releasing 4 books. My book is going to be one of them. Onto the Libernet, and I think most of us are going to be doing 100 runs of each book. I'm going to be 100 runs, and we'll mint it, whatever it is, and and the thing about the reason it being physical I'm sort of talking about is because there's a likelihood that I'm going to be able to fund that to send people physical copies, and then now I've sort of explained what non-fungible tokens are from my best efforts from what I understand it to be from my angle. It's very interesting, and I'm sure you'll agree, these sort of criticisms that come from it when we are so prenatal, we are such in the fetal stages of this technology and what this technology can do. I just want to mention that for example, I think the sort of the fad side of it is, the side of it is that, this guy's selling a piece of art that he's done, that he's made on something for 100K or whatever. It's overpriced, blah, blah, blah. When it is a very strange and very limited argument to sort of talk about when we talk about what the potential of NFTs actually is. And it's a very, and what makes me excited about this project that we're doing, Libernet, even more is that, there is functional application. There's functional utility in creating an NFT as a book, because people already own audiobooks. And the fact is that you hold an audiobook, but you can't You can't give it away to a friend. You can't, you can't say, oh, here's my ebook. You can't trade it into the proverbial library, which is what we would sort of platform for another book, not in the same way, at least. And that's what makes this project so exciting. So when we're talking about actual sort of real ownership of material through NFTs, but we can also talk about the sort of the transparency and the ability to connect the author and the reader together, because the author, like the blockchain, will be able to see everyone that reads the book. I want to personally, with my book, The Ecstasy of Nothing, really just open myself up for discussion, rather than sort of, be the kind of mysterious, secluded writer I kind of wanted to be in my teens or whatever. I want to sort of say, no, my DMs are completely open, and I'm open to discussing with you about the ideas in the book. I've written a philosophy book. It's kind of phenomenological about language or whatever it is. But, I want to be able to really make it accessible. This is something that me and Dylan were really agreeing on to begin with before we got into the block, before he got into the blockchain first and then I did, is that we were sort of a bit like, why isn't this sort of thing available to the audience, like to a wider audience, because we were sort of running on the sort of idea that philosophy was quite limited and quite jargonated and quite elitist, and certain, only a certain few people can read this. Obviously now it's branched out much wider to, all forms of literature. So this is what makes this project really exciting. I'm sure you have something to say.
No, dude, that is really exciting. And, coming at it from a completely different angle, man, there's a lot of other reasons why it's very exciting, which is one of the reasons why I feel like, putting literature on the blockchain is right in its infancy, if you can even, if not prior to that, some sort of prehistoric stage that we're in right now that you guys are out in front of. Because like, just as a person who likes to read, man, and like someone who likes to collect shit, like, if my favorite author put out a limited run of 1 of 100 copies of, one of his books that I loved, dude, I would buy that shit, just because I would want like a digital copy that I can prove is that unique digital copy that I can just sort of like flex on all my literature friends, man. They'd be like, dude, I got the #1 copy of this dude's thing. And it seems trivial, like, to a lot of people who don't really understand NFTs, but when you think about just collectors in general, like, there's a very high demand for like physical books that are provably unique and that you can prove like what edition they are and that kind of thing. And so NFTs have basically just allowed people to do that with digital assets. And so yes, man, there's like so many collectors out there that, all these authors could essentially like re-release their classics in like limited quantities. We could verify that those are the actual digital copies released by these authors that people love. And people will go berserk, man. And we're just scratching the surface of it. But what you're saying, man, is like, what I'm talking about is like the entry level shit, man. You're already like 2 steps beyond that, because yes, once you're able to have people collecting your NFT book on blockchain, and you can sort of have that interaction with your fans, there's a lot of different layers you can add on top of it, right? Because if you sell out 100 copies of your book to like your top tier fans, maybe everyone else after that can just like download the regular audio book from like Amazon or whatever. But for those people who got like the 100 copies, those are like your OG fans. And so if you want to like, airdrop a snippet of your upcoming, book to just those 100 fans, right? You can do that kind of thing. And so it's like, almost like an email list on steroids once you have those people like interacting with your digital product like that, man. So really fucking cool idea.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I'm for risk of repeating myself, though I'm sure people who watch this haven't, all read or watched all the other podcasts. I wanted to sort of, what really fascinates me about sort of this is kind of ideology and kind of how we sort of base our experiences on what's in front of us and what we are sort of spoon-fed, as opposed to actual better tools coming along to help. And I think what makes this trump better than anything else, is you kind of, and I really try and like look beyond the fad and the clout and the kind of, the hype or whatever, and sort of see, is this a better tool and does it have the potential to grow into an even better and better tool? And this is something that I'm like, yes, this is something that makes me really sort of think, like, this is, when we're talking about actual creating transparency and sort of a connection between author and reader, and limited runs, and sort of, really seizing the opportunity to allow your readers to properly own your book, and not having middlemen sort of take all the profits, and not having, not being able to, for example, in my case, I was really going to go down the road of sucking literary agents' toes to just have them read my cover letter, to say, oh, please let me, please read my manuscript. And also to,
right.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the first, and perhaps we can talk about this a little bit more. I can't go into too much detail because it's still, this is like, like a project in my head and Dylan's head as well, as I've told him. But, in terms of privatization of knowledge, both in acquiring knowledge, which is just nonsense anyway, because all knowledge will be free in a few years anyway. And I'm just so sure of that. I don't know how it couldn't be. But also privatizing the ability to prove that you know it through qualification, and the sort of idea that we have to sort of attend some sort of, prestigious university that takes up all of our time and money just to prove that we know something. This is a real obstacle that I think maybe something, even more down the line we can sort of think about. But I think that decentralization in this regard as well is pretty, it could be a very promising idea, at least, So.
Yeah, man. I tend to lean in that direction as well, in terms of, I feel like that's the inevitable outcome of all of this, is that all knowledge is going to eventually be hosted in a decentralized place that everyone will have access to. And there's almost like that, the train is almost like out of the gate, or the cat is almost out of the bag already. And there's like basically very little anyone can do to stop that. But it's weird, man. We're in a really weird point with NFTs, where I feel like there are a lot of people like you who are like really laying the foundation. They believe this is like transformative technology, and can see the forest through the trees, and are laying the groundwork for that shift. And then there's a lot of people who see like, ooh, hype, bubble, money, and are just trying to like cash in on whatever this thing is before it like evaporates into thin air. But I think those of us who have been around for a while, like within crypto, blockchain, NFTs, and everything, all sort of see the same big picture, where this is like the internet. It sounds cliche, man. I know this analogy has been thrown around like a million times, but it is like the internet all over again, in the sense that like it's going to change everything. It's going to disrupt all these like middlemen, like you're saying, and things that have been in place, necessarily or unnecessarily. You could argue either way, but either way, they're probably going away. And this is what we're going to be left with. So, it's at this point, I feel like anyone who's like, ahead of the curve right now with this technology is going to be like way ahead of the curve down the line, and people are going to be seeking advice from us for this kind of thing. But it's amazing, man. But I agree with you. The landscape's going to be transformed tremendously in a few years. And we're I feel like seeing some pushback from like mainstream industry who are starting to like get a grasp on where this is all headed.
I once talked to a friend of mine, and he's very intelligent, very politically active. I think he was, quite he had quite an important role in our in sense to do with, our political party and in our council or whatever. And I won't mention his name but I want to get him on here to sort of debate, because he's brilliant and very intelligent, very analytical, but he's very skeptical of cryptocurrency. And I saw him tag me in an article written by the New York Times about NFTs and gas fees. And I don't really know I didn't respond, but not because, I didn't want to talk to him about it, but I just thought it was like, yes, I know it's bad. It's sort of like, it's like, why do we eat? It's bad for the, it's bad. It's bad. I mean, and I'm like, yes, adding pollution is a bad thing. Does that mean that the whole technology should be thrown away in the same way? I'm sure, please check me up on this, but like, I'm sure the internet required quite a lot of electrical and sort of fossil fuel power to be created, I suppose. And, and of course there are problems with that. Does that mean you throw the whole thing away? Of course not, and that's my stance. And I'm like saying, yes, gas fees are a problem. And a problem that is probably going to be quickly fixed in a few years once, more efficient technologies come along to say, oh, we have Pi now, which in the mining is far less requiring high power, because with Pi, you just do it on your phone. You sort of allocate your phone as a resource to sort of for mining technology to work, and you do that every day. And my mum does that. I'm still trying to work out how to do it because I think it's invite only. But like, this is already a complete change from this sort of worry about gas fees. And I just sort of wonder, to what extent are the New York Times really unbiased? And when they're talking about these things, New York Times, I'm sure New York Times, you know, someone who sort of advertised themselves as such a prestigious newspaper company that, you know, writers are going to suck toes, to be honest, and they have such a position of power, especially when, columns like the New York Times are going to be so under threat with the publicization and decentralization and democratization of human knowledge from people with opinions that don't need to suck up to these sort of companies anymore. And this is kind of my anarchic side coming out, but I do think, like, I mean, you know,
I would love to see the carbon footprint of the New York Times, right? As they like take shots at like the carbon footprint of the blockchain.
Yes.
Dude, I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made, right? I mean, it's probably not good for the environment. I don't think there's anyone really saying like that is good for the environment, but I think you got to look at like the big picture. And, you know, if you see the big picture, the blockchain over the long term solves so many more problems of these environmental concerns and these types of problems that are like pervading our society and our world than it does cause them. And there's so many solutions being worked on right now. I mean, you know, it just sucks right now. It's basically what it is. I mean, it's scaled like, you know, parabolically. People are working on solutions. Nobody wants this, but you know, there are the most brilliant minds in the world, not, you know, only working on solutions for that specific blockchain, but creating blockchains and side chains and different solutions to circumvent this exact problem. Because aside from it being an environmental concern, which may be a very valid concern, to people who just want to make NFTs and collect stuff, it still just sucks. So like everyone wants a solution, whether you like care about the environmental side or not.
Because they're not only bad for the environment but they're also expensive, you know, and people don't want to pay expensive fees when the money, especially when the money goes to nothing in value, you know, and yeah, exactly. So there's even an economic incentive to sort that out. And given the technologies and given the efficiency of people to solve problems really quickly through these new upcoming DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations, of which, you know, audiences can watch a fair few videos that we've done on that as well. I'm sure we might delve into it here, but you know, when we talk about that, it's just it just sort of makes you question. It's like, well, you know, to what extent are we actually, you know, forewarning this terrible event that's happening, and to what extent we're actually just unsure and perhaps, maybe in my radical opinion, ideologically possessed by the institutional frameworks that came before. It's like, well, this is new, you know, and like, you know, the same, you know, and I find that all of these arguments are like, at least they are very like a huge narrowing of the imagination, especially when we think about, you know, why would I spend so much for just a JPEG when I can just download it? And I'm like, yes, I know, but it's like, it's like sort of saying like, you know, why would I don't know, like, why would I use a steam train to get from one village to the other? I can just ride a horse. And I'm like, well, of course, yes, but like maybe we can develop steam engines to go across countries and states, you know, and that, yes. I think that's a much better framework, you know. I'm not, you know,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying like, you know, this, you know, we've got it now. Of course not. But I'm saying we are completely uncertain about what's going to happen and to what extent people are going to decide how these technologies evolve. So it is, you know, yeah, absolutely. But I do want to get the guy on, my friend, to sort of talk about this, and because he's intelligent, and I want to hear his arguments, and I do want to sort of open a space for people that are sort of skeptical of cryptocurrency and DAOs and NFTs and the whole world, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I feel like that is like the sort of ethos of the space, right? Like all opinions are welcome. Let's not discount anybody. Like let's, you know, full transparency. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that is, you know, such a disruptive force with this technology is that, you know, this is going to be the great like sunlight on all of these institutions that may have been doing right by us or wrong by us. But once all this information is public and on the blockchain, like we'll see like how the cards shake out. And it's like, you know, the difference between an NFT and a JPEG and right-click saving something is, you know, really just scratching the surface of like the massive paradigm shift that is going to cut across like so many industries and everything. But it's funny, man, how like that that concept though, that like right click save versus like that JPEG being on the blockchain is a lot of people's like foray into this space, and sort of like, you know, how the dominoes start falling for a lot of people making these connections and everything. So it's fascinating, man. But yeah, I mean, if we circle back here a year from now, it would be insanely interesting to look back at how the landscape has changed just in that amount of time, because, you know, from last year to this year is like, you know, we're on another planet already.
That's why I think, well, I mean, like, again, and I'm completely for pieces of art like JPEGs and even music being created as NFTs. I welcomely encourage it because I just want to see what happens. But I think what we're doing at Libernet and with books is even more easy to understand for people, for sort of every, you know, sort of people that aren't in this world, because that's kind of how we already do it anyway. We already, you know, you know, and of course, you know, it's like, well, why don't I just download the book on a Pirate Bay? And I'm like, well, yes, but who does, you know, like, you know, is that actually how we, you know, for one, is that even how we do it? And for, you know, and, you know, I mean, this is the sort of, you know, the thing with Audible, you know, Audible is just so good at relentless marketing on YouTube. I mean, I get it, like almost half my ads are Audible ads, and it has just completely swept the market. And to the point where it's just, I believe it's just ideological, you know. Obviously, you can just download these audiobooks on Pirate Bay, but also a lot of these audiobooks are for free anyway, you know, like a lot of old literature, which I'm interested in, which I read the most of, you can listen to on YouTube, for God's sake, you know. And so, you know, it is just sort of hypnosis and just this sort of like, you know, well, you know, Audible, yeah, I've heard that, you know, it's like if you tell a lie too many times, you know, people believe it's true, no matter, even if they know it's a lie, you just say, repeat it over and over again.
Right, you just bang it in their head.
You bang it in their head, you know, discover Audible, the free audiobook on us, you know, and it's like, oh, it's free audio, you know, and I've mentioned this before, but I think it's so funny, and I want to mention it. When it's like, start your 30-day trial with one free audiobook. So you get the 30-day trial, which is a trial of what it's like to pay for it. And even then you only get one free audiobook. I'm like, what the fuck? Like it's, and you know, it is just this very, very, you know, very strange, you know, just kind of like complacency, being complicit, and just sort of being afraid to explore and going beyond kind of what you've been given, and sort of create new experiences and go against the grain at risk, but at the benefit of adventure, perhaps. So,
you know, it's really interesting, man, that the point that you made about like, you know, audiobooks and like, you know, digital copies of books being like one of the most easily way for people to wrap their heads around this concept, because you're 100% right, man. Like that stuff has been going on for a very long time. People who are very like non-tech savvy, you know, my mom knows how to download an audiobook if she, or a, you know, a book on her Kindle or whatever, if she just wants to like read a book online. And so I feel like, you know, it's almost interesting, or I don't know what the word is. It's interesting, I guess, how art sort of was pushed to the forefront, and maybe it's just because that's the most visual, but I feel like that is a really difficult concept for people to wrap their heads around, and it's not free, but people are used to downloading books. And so then all you have to say for people to make the jump is, now you can just sell that book back, or now you can send it to a friend, or now you can trade it for another book. And then, you know, then it all makes sense. And you can, in a way that's a lot more palatable.
And you can, you know, and you can get sort of extra essays. You know, I want to do something where, you know, I have a couple of extra essays, you know, just somewhere lying around on my hard drive. And if people download the book, they can sort of be like, you know, hey, have an exclusive, you're one of the first to have an exclusive essay, you know. And this is something, you know, not that I want to just say, oh, don't share this to anyone else, but it's just that whole sort of, you know, it's the camaraderie, the, you know, I'm giving this to you personally, you know. And obviously I'm not saying this is my business plan, but I'm just, you know, this is that radical openness I have towards these technologies, you know. I had something to say, but I completely agree with you. Like the fact that, you know, people, this is how it's already done anyway. Oh, that's what I was going to say, you know. And with NFTs, I think it's so interesting to sort of hear people say, but it's not real. And it's like, yes, but YouTube views aren't real, and YouTube subscribers aren't real, and YouTube likes aren't real. You know, I don't. What do you mean exactly? You know, and the point is, and I'm obviously, as someone that loves the natural, I love nature and everything. I'm not actually against these technologies, because I believe that they are good tools to benefit experiences, and I believe those experiences can return to the physical world. You know, I you know, obviously in the sense that in the same sense that like, you know, online shopping starts on the internet, but now then it can turn into it can come back into the world. I'm trying to think of other examples, but you know, I'm sure there are a number of companies who initially started out as online companies and then converted themselves into, you know, or at least provide something for the physical world that benefits experiences for people. So it is just, yeah, I really went on a direction there. But, it is interesting to sort of, and of course, anyone who's listening, feel free to, like, you know, post your own criticisms of NFTs or whatever, and I'll try my best. I'll try my best to get back to you and just sort of, you know, so we can have a sort of back and forth about what this actually means, because of course I'm still open, and I'm still open, and I believe that, you know, with any movement, anything ever, there's obviously going to be some drawbacks and criticisms that can be made about it. Yeah. But like that, you know, again, that you know, that's not to say that that you throw the whole thing in the bin, you know. So
yeah. Dude, I think, you know, I mean, it's certainly not perfect technology. I don't think anyone's arguing that, like, it is, like, you know, exactly the way we want it to be. But there's no doubt in my mind that this is like the way it should have been all the time. And we just didn't have the tech to get it here, because I feel like with enough consumer education, we're getting very, very close to the point where people are going to open up their current digital wallets of movies they've purchased and downloaded, or songs that they've purchased and downloaded, and they're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, none of this is actually mine. It's actually Google's, or it's actually, you know, whoever I downloaded it from, because I can't sell it. I can't trade it. I can't do anything with it except just keep it in the silo that it was designated towards when I purchased this thing. And, you know, if you own something, it's just not the way it should be. And, you know, you're talking about physical items. If you own a physical item, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. And that's the way it should be when you own anything. And I think that's like the high level view of like the solution that NFTs solve. And the rest of the stuff, the gas and everything, it's something that needs to be worked through. But that's like the high level shit that this takes care of, in my opinion.
That's a brilliant point, because you just sort of mentioned something that I didn't really like think about, or at least explicate. And that's the idea that it's already going that way. People are already assuming that they own things digitally anyway. Like, despite the argument, oh, it's, you know, it's not real. It's like, no, but you're already buying into Netflix and Hulu and Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Premium and all the rest of it. And none of it's yours, you know, like, you're already going that way. And this is the same reason I sort of, in my essay I wrote for Pizza DAO, which I've just sort of finished yesterday. I sort of say, you know, like it's not this kind of digital or physical dichotomy we have to deal with. Like, oh, we're all getting stuck in the digital space. And it's like, no, it's already happening. And the question is, of course, do you want to seize the opportunity to own and master what you have and be able to sort of have freedom with it, or do you want to just not seize that opportunity? And perhaps that's a little abstract. And of course, people can say, you know, but I'm sure you can definitely apply some practicality to what I just said, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I think there's a lot of like, let's see. So if you want to like get involved into this space, there's still some significant barriers to entry that aren't like impossible to get over, but it's enough to like weed out the people who like aren't willing to seize the opportunity right now, right? Like, you got to like do a little bit of like digging in order to understand cryptocurrencies. Then you got to figure out how to get some cryptocurrencies. Then you got to figure out how like the wallets interact with things. And so I feel like that's a good thing right now, honestly, because there is a lot of opportunity out there. There's a ton of opportunity out there. I mean, there's so much blank space right now for people to create so many different things, but it is the hurdles are prohibitive enough that you've only really got people doing things well who like really give a shit and who like really want to do it and who are like really interested in the technology and making it work. And so, you know, in some ways I feel like, you know, it's a hindrance to the space because it's not super public accessible, but at the same time, I feel like it sort of bides us, like, you know, the builders, the creators, a little bit more time to like lay our foundation so that when this is like the default way and the floodgates are like really opened, like, you know, we're well out in front and everything. But yeah, the space is so green right now that there's tons of opportunity. You just got to be willing to tinker around with things. There's no Google like blueprint that you can, you know, pull up to figure out how to do this shit. You just got to do it.
Yeah, thanks for making my sort of ideas, because I was about to do, I'm about to respond by something very abstract, and I think you made it a bit more concrete, which is good to have that sort of balance. But like, I just want to sort of say that, like, I think something that I'm really stumbling across, and like, in my sort of like, I don't know, my theories or whatever, is like, people are, even especially in the West, I find that we're very averse to space and absence and potential. We like to sort of think about things, even in terms of how we plan our day out. I mean, this is really kind of abstract, but like, we sort of like to plan everything to a T, and then the whole time we're there, we're not really enjoying it. And I want to sort of bring, and that's an example of how worried we are about having an open space and absence. And I think the same thing can be applied for the future of these technologies, because people are sort of like, yeah, but why? How? Yeah, how is this going to happen? Yes, we can do all these things now, but what's the future going to hold? We need answers. And it's like, well, no, because, to do that is to sort of imply again that there's some sort of daddy that's going to tell you how it's going to be planned out. And it's like, no, we can, you are very easily able to get involved in these spaces and determine how it goes for yourself, and keep that open space in mind. Not that these technologies aren't already doing a tremendous amount of good and obviously show signs of doing practical things that can really help people, but there's still so much space left. And that's what's so intriguing about it. With Netflix and Spotify and Hulu and all the and Amazon Prime and all the rest of it, there's no space. It is laid out for you. And that's, and this is something that's been on our mind for a long time. The past 10, especially the past 5 years, with the sort of the knowledge that, not only is your phone most likely listening to you, but it's probably also watching where your eyes are on the screen. I've heard about this, and I don't disbelieve it at all. And obviously, I want to be fact checked on that. But like, I think the argument can still make sense, even if, the idea that we are sort of being watched and sort of surveyed at all times by people and actors that we can't communicate with at the very least. And who are just, and there are pros and cons to that, but like, I think we're just very averse to the, and it comes back to this argument for me every time. People are just very averse to the idea that they can choose themselves. They don't want to choose. They don't want to, be able to make decisions for themselves, because, because it's hard, it's uncanny, and it's strange, and it's eerie, and that's it, really.
Yeah, man. Dude, I agree with you, dude. I feel like, by and large, people are creatures of habit and are comfortable in structure and routine and enjoy some sense of like predictability. And it does take like a certain amount of like something to be able to like sit in the ambiguity, or like just decide to like dive into the Wild West and just sort of like throw some stuff at the wall and see what happens. And those are the people who have like largely been in the space up to this point. The people who haven't been sort of afraid to go rogue and try something new and build something up from the bottom and everything. And those are like my people, man. That's why I love this space so much, is because I feel like, a kinship with people who are willing to roll the dice and, try to create something new. Because there's certainly, if I'm an artist or a musician who has like some sense of notoriety, there's certainly like a good argument to be made to go the safe route, right? Because you've already got your fans, you can make some guaranteed money, you get your house, all this stuff is like written in stone for you, and you can just, plug yourself into the machine and it's all good, right? And so, especially people who already have like a decent bit of following, people, if they decide to go this direction and people look at them a little bit crazy, right? There's some professional athletes now who have decided to take most of their salary in cryptocurrencies or something, right? And everyone's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Someone's always got to be that person or those people first. And this space right now is like filled with those people. And it's not going to be for long, man, which is very, very like sad to me in a lot of ways, because soon the path forward will be forward in this space. And, there will be some blueprints that have been nailed down of like how to, build a successful NFT platform or whatever. But for now, there's not. And there's so many different directions that anybody could go in like almost any industry, right? Like even in like the publishing, like, book, industry, like you could have 1,000 competitors right this second doing 1,000 different things, and everybody could be good in the long run. Like that's how much like open space there is right now, right here. So it's fascinating though, man. But I still feel like the risk averse people are not feeling us yet. We're like almost there, but I'm all right with that.
That's fine. Yeah. And risk repeating myself, you know, like, and people are the risk averse people, I really want to encourage to sort of engage with us. You know, I'm a very open person. I'm very happy to have my mind changed on sort of certain issues, maybe not my core values, but like, you know, I'm just, you know, I want to sort of receive new ideas and sort of new sort of ways of thinking about things. And like, I don't, you know, this isn't an us versus you kind of thing. This is very kind of like, you know, you know, risk averse people are, anyway, they're warmly welcome to this sort of these discussions. And I hope to sort of see a kind of meld between the sort of these people, because it seems to be kind of polarized, which is a lot of what we're sort of seeing on social media at the moment anyway, which is another issue that we, you know, I think that the sort of decentralization is going to do very well in, you know. Perhaps I should mention that not once have I had the argument with anyone over whether they're a left winger or a right winger. It's not actually an argument that it's really had, because we've both, I think that people on both sides have sort of understood that there is a common problem to solve, right? And I'm a leftist personally. I'm kind of leftist anarchist. You know, I don't want to put myself into a box or whatever, but like, it's so interesting to sort of, you know, when we sort of talk about, you know, most political issues that are being had online, it always seems to come down to, are you a leftist or are you a rightist argument? And then, and I've noticed that there's just no communication being had. With this, there is so much open and non-judgmental communication being had, and also collective agreement on the belief that, you know, hedge funds aren't really helping the world. They're not doing anything. They're not really doing, you know, they're not doing anything beneficial to the world. You know, like middlemen aren't doing anything for the world. You know, autocratic industry. You know, these things aren't contributing anything to the world. So it's just wonderful to sort of see, you know, proper radical political activism being had, with no real need to consider which camp you lie in. You know, that we can actually we can embrace nuance and uncertainty while still acknowledging intrinsic freedoms that we are lacking, I suppose. So.
Yeah, dude, I think like in the long run, everybody wins with this technology. Even the skeptics and the people who like really don't believe it's a good thing, I think this benefits them. They just, you know, probably don't realize this. I feel like the only people who this really hurts is people who are doing shady things with money, man. It's gonna you know, put a microscope over that. People are going to fact check their shit, and it's going to not like be great probably for hedge funds and people who have historically shuffled a lot of money around and been able to, you know, keep that out of the spotlight and everything. But for like everyday people, man, you know, this is like a big leveling of the playing field, like a big, you know, help to everyone, like people who want access to information and people who want, you know, open knowledge, you know, knowledge to be shared with everybody. You know, if you're down with that, I think all those people win in the long run. You know, even the people who are apprehensive about this technology. Some of these big businesses may not be as big of businesses because they've been able to, you know, historically, you know, funnel all the musicians through them, funnel all the artists, all the writers through them. But I don't even think they go away either. They just sort of get repurposed or, you know, hold a different role within the space moving forward. So, you know, maybe their pockets aren't lined like quite as well as they used to be, but they're all right. You know, they did fine for themselves for a long time there. They'll be good.
I want to just sort of, I'm curious because I love delving in the abstract of it all. That's where I live basically. But I want to know from someone like you that's obviously been much more involved in this sort of world than me. I want to know what sort of projects you're sort of seeing at the moment that are really kind of exhibiting this kind of movement, because I love the abstract or whatever. And I know we obviously see Kings of Leon releasing NFTs, their albums on NFT, and we see tweet NFTs. We see Jack, you know, the famous Jack. I think Jack, I forget his name, Jack Snyder, I think. I'm not sure. The Twitter
Jack something.
Yeah. Jack obviously releasing his tweet as an NFT, and then Elon Musk releasing his tweet as an NFT or whatever. I mean, I want to know from your angle, like what NFTs you're sort of seeing coming out that really excite, not only are really popular and really viral, but that really excite you with these sorts of movements, I suppose. Are there any that come to mind?
Well, NFTs are like span such a broad definition that it's, you know, there's so many. I mean, from like the dumbest like JPEG that it has like some cute googly eyes on it that I bought that does nothing and means nothing. I like some of those, you know, just from like a art, like, I don't know, goofball perspective. But I really think like NFTs that actually like provide some sort of utility are going to be like tremendously desirable moving forward. So especially when we're talking about like some of these virtual worlds like Decentraland and like CryptoVoxels and Somnium Space, where you can like, you know, own part of that environment and then like use your other NFTs in this environment to like perform certain functions. And you know, I'm in contact with a few people. I don't know if you're familiar with like Jin and Boombox Head, who are like so far in front of the space in like VR, but I feel like virtual reality is like a huge untapped market that NFTs will inevitably play like a huge role in. So I think those projects are absolutely in their infancy and have like unlimited like parabolic trajectory. But in general, man, I feel like even down to like the I don't want to say dumbest, but like goofiest little simple JPEG with googly eyes that an artist made that would not have been able to sell anywhere, you know, 2 years ago that I just paid $10 for. I believe that has an important utility as well, you know? So I think it cuts across like so many different things. But honestly, as someone who's been in the space for a long time, man, it's all like pretty exciting because I feel like I just meet people like yourself every day, man. They're like artists and creators who are just like, dude, I get to like do the shit that I wanted to do without having to suck the toes of some asshole or like, you know, whatever. And that's what I love, man, more than anything, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, you know, personally, when I finished my book in November 2020, I'd been sort of writing it very seriously, like quite every day for about a year. For a year before that, I had spent many days thinking about it and writing notes. And let me just think, about 5 years before that, I was very obsessed with this sort of notion of like, you know, how are we chained? Why am I so depressed? Why do I fear death? Why do I fear, you know, all the angles, you know. Anyway, I finished the book in November 2020 and I was just like, now what do I do? And I sort of spoke to, I sort of, you know, I there was some Masons that I sort of spoke to that were sort of interested in publishing, and then they sort of were like, actually, we're kind of out of business. And I was just sort of like, I remember one morning I was up all night, and then I went through every single literary agent. Like I was about, I don't know how far I got, but I went, you know, there's a lovely website that sort of had every literary agent in the UK, and I read through all of their bios, really strict, really on the ground kind of literary agents, and I was just like saving them, and eventually I found a couple, and I was like, okay, I'll write a cover letter. And there was a wonderful guy, you know, he does represent everything that we don't like about this sort of thing, as at Libernet, and I'm sure you as well, but he was very good in sort of showing through YouTube videos how he reads cover letters from writers, and he would, and you know, this is how everyone does it, and you know, and the fact that he showed it publicly was so enlightening. But he basically he just read it and go, oh, I want to read, no. He misspelled a word. No. I can tell he hasn't really got the plot through. No, you know, and it is just like, damn, that is interesting, you know, and of course, you know, and sort of the thing that I think that always come back to is sort of tools. You know, this person is a human being, but they are providing a sort of tool to help. And what is the tool they provide? Is it promotion? Is it printing? Is it peer review? Is it opens to create lectures to discuss? All of these things are tools that are becoming obsolete. We're not, you know, there's really kind of this like, you know, obsolescence with what they're actually providing. And then when you get rid of the utility of the tool, all you have left is the ideology, this kind of, I think you should go this way. Anyway, to finish the story, I finished the book, and then about 3 months later, you know, Dylan approached me and just said, you know, hey, come work for us. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And from there, you know, and we all, it's really funny, me and Dylan, you know, and Dylan hopefully is going to be writing the foreword for my book, you know, no promises, but this is an idea that we have. And, you know, and it's really funny because, you know, we sort of like, you know, brainstorming it yesterday, and he was talking about, you know, oh, we can talk about that conflict we had, because we did kind of, you know, we kind of crossed, we kind of, you know, conflicted when he was like, basically in his words, was trying to discourage me from the pain of having to be an author. And this is before he was involved in the whole crypto scene or whatever. And it was just that. It was like, you know, it was everything Dylan believed in, but the inverse. It was like, you know, this is, you know, I've, yeah, Dylan's a, you know, that's what he does for, primarily. He's a writer, and he's just, you know, he's had such struggles with actually sort of, you know, becoming sort of the author that he deserves to be. And hopefully I can sort of speak in the same vein, though I'm much further behind than he is in terms of like what I've written. But, you know, now that we have this kind of option to expand, it's just like, you know, and we're gonna, and Dylan's gonna write something forward. It's like, it's such an interesting journey. You know, we met, we became really good online friends, and then we had the conflict, and then at the end we sort of went out working for each other. And it is just so interesting to sort of, you know, see, you know, that's an example, you know, even if you want to talk about sort of numbers and statistics and like, you know, commerce or whatever, at the end of the day, like this alone, you know, is a really good experience that not only is important for how I created the book, but also where we're putting the book onto the Libernet, and how sort of, you know, how relevant that forward is into the method and the tool that we're using to promote the book. So yeah, that was a lot of words, but yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah,
dude, you're like, if you guys keep pushing ahead like you have been, you're probably very quickly going to run into a situation where you're going to have to figure out where your time is best spent, man. If you're going to be continuing to write and publish, or because what will inevitably happen, man, is a lot of authors, if they haven't already, are going to start seeking you guys out and be like, yo, how do I do this? Like, I want to get in on this, but I'm a little risk averse. I like to be a cog plugged into a machine normally. You know, will you guys be my machine, or like help me be a cog in your machine or something? And so that's the way, like, a lot of people who have been in this space for a long time are finding themselves now. Like, a lot of people want to get in on this technology, but they need some hand holding from people who have, you know, been down this road for a little bit longer than they have. So I have no doubt, man, that, you know, you guys continue to push ahead, that you're going to have like some difficult decisions to make that are good, difficult decisions that you'll want to have to make. But it's cool, man. You guys are doing like a really awesome thing. Thanks that have no doubt it's going to continue to grow legs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I want to say, like, I don't know how long I can keep this option open for, depending on when people are watching this. But if you are, like, please send me a DM if you do have writing material. I can't guarantee anything at all. I'm a sole creator, sole writer, whatever. But like, I am very easy to talk to and very open. So and I want to.
We'll be very popular very soon. So hit them up.
Well, soon. That's gonna get flooded in my inbox. I mean that's the thing that I want to sort of, at least, like, at the worst case, I want to set an example to sort of say, like, no, you can talk to me, and I will. You know, please don't, you know, like Steve Jobs is something wonderful. You know, it's like number one, people fail to do this. They don't ask, you know, and that's before the internet. You know, he you know, when he was 12, I think he went to some sort of, you know, an engineering company and said, hey, I want to create a computer. Can I just have some parts? And the guy was like, yeah, I'm glad you asked. You know, even in the internet, even in the internet world, we're sort of very shy. And about last year, I really learned to get rid of that. And you know, it's a really great creator that I love. He's got a brilliant work ethic, and he films hardcore and extreme metal shows, you know, really, really exciting stuff. His name's Hate56. And I just gave him a shout out on Twitter. I said, guys, watch this guy's work, his work style and his work ethic. He is fantastic. And he retweeted it. And I shared it with him. And I said, you know, I messaged him and I said, hey man, you know, this, you know, I fucking love what you're doing. I just want to support you. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to, I want to talk to you about it on the podcast. And obviously there's still that kind of sentiment. It's like, you know, a lot of people I talk to are like, oh, you did that. That's crazy. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like it's Twitter. Like, it's Twitter. That's their DMs are open. If they have the messenger icon, you will not be punished for messaging them. And this is something I've noted. We are and this again, and I'm such a broken record, but it comes down to ideology. It's like, it is like they're in the proverbial high-rise building and they're too afraid to ring the doorbell. And it's not like that. We are, we still have that mindset when we sort of approach digital technologies. And it's like, and now, even now, like, 15 years later, 16 years later after YouTube, we're now only learning, creators are only now just learning through, advice on Patreon, all these things, to actually message the people that comment. And it's taken so long for that to be encouraged in YouTube, right? It's the same, and it's the same thing. It's like, before, and obviously people didn't have the hindsight to be like, oh, I have commenters, I can respond to them and I can have a conversation and create engagement, obviously. And the fact that it took so long when that tool was always available only proves the sort of the backbone of ideology that keeps us from actually doing what we got to do, So that's really interesting. And anyway, what I was saying is my DMs are completely open if people want to. People want to discuss their writing material with me. I want to, if anything, I want to create a sort of, an experiential economy of people sort of sharing ideas and sharing writing prompts and all the rest of it. This is like, it's inevitable and so encouraged by a lot of people I know. So
dude, I feel very similarly, man, and try to do the same. So I'd like to extend the same offer. I'm at NFT Land on Twitter. Feel free to slide into my DMs, answer a ton of questions about NFTs on a regular basis. So yeah, happy. I'm an open book, and willing to help anybody out. So
it sounds like it's wrapping up pretty nicely. Do you have anything else you want to plug? Any projects you're working on? Any updates on the Pizza DAO? Anything like that you that you just want to sort of talk about? And obviously I can just put these links in the description, and I'll sort of ask them. And anything that you want to sort of just talk about that's really, really hot at the moment that you want to sort of promote.
Sure, man. Hit me on Twitter at NFTland. I hang out a lot in the Token Smart Discord. It's sort of like a community hub for different things that are going on in the NFT space. We do a lot of events. Word is we're working with you guys on doing some stuff. So check out Token Smart Discord. Discord.gg/NFT. And we do a lot of cool stuff with a lot of different creators and artists. And so feel free to participate and just hang out and lurk and listen. Or if you have like a cool project that is crypto or NFT related and want to discuss, hopping on and doing a thing of your own, hit me up. Sounds like we're all open books around here. So, willing to keep the conversation going with anyone who wants to.
Okay, brilliant. It's been a long time coming for me to talk to you, Rizzle. It's been you're right. It's been a fair long time, and I will get back to you on that jingle. That was something that I need to. I've been so swamped. So it's just one of those things. But
good, dude.
that was going to be really fun. So yeah, and it's been really nice talking to you, Rizzle. It's been lovely to meet you. And thanks for watching, everyone. Leave a comment, like I said, if you have anything that you'd like to talk about. I'll try and hop in there and see if I can respond to you. And if you want to support the channel, please like, subscribe, share with anyone you think would benefit from hearing this. Even anyone that would benefit from sort of, that doesn't agree with it but would like to hear what we have to say. And you guys have a pleasant Thursday and have a good weekend coming up. And same goes to you, Rizzle. The future is
Thank you, man.
Summer's coming for us in the Northern Hemisphere, so well, it's gonna be great fun. So thanks so much for coming, Rizzle, and you have a good day. All right.
It's been an honor, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, dude.
And thanks everyone for watching. All right. Take it easy. See you at the next episode. Bye bye.